Hi,
Sure.
everyone. Sam Silverman, Managing Partner of EB5AN. Thank you for taking time to join us on today's webinar. Today, we're going to be speaking with a real EB5 investor, Sid, from India, who joined our Twin Lakes, Georgia rural EB5 project, recently received his I-5260 approval, which we're very excited about. And on today's webinar, we're going to hear from Sid, walk through his experience selecting an EB5 immigration attorney, picking a project, and then after making his investment, what that post-investment process looked like, getting the work and travel permit, and then recently getting the I-5260 approval as well. So Sid, thank you very much for taking time to join us. I know this is the second short interview we've done. We did one a while ago, closer to when you made the initial application. So thanks again for coming back and letting me bother you with some more questions about your experience. But yeah, maybe to start, just share a little bit about your background experience, what brought you to the US, and kind
All
of
right.
what led you to do EB5.
Sure. Hi, Sam. Yeah, nice to meet you again in this interview. So, to answer my background, originally I'm from India. Even my wife is from India. I did meet her, I think, back in 2015, 2016, and after that we decided to get married, and she was already pursuing her master's in the US. She's a dentist. So I decided to join her here, and we got married and moved here in 2016. And after that, I mean, she being from India, she after graduating straight out of college, she applied for her H-1B and luckily got picked. I applied for my H-4. And I think in 2018, her employer sponsored her green card application. I think that's the I-140 under EB2. And since then, I've been on H4 EAD, and I was working on that. She's been working on H1B tied to her employer, and we actually, I mean, I think most of the people know here in the EB2 or the EB3 or even EB1A or B category now, if I'm not wrong, the backlog is huge, especially for EB2. I think her priority date was 2018, but the backlog is, I think, what they say is approximately over 100 years. So there was absolutely no chance that we were even thinking of getting a green card. EB1 was really not an option for us at that point. So we were exploring multiple options. We even took the Canadian PR. So we both of us have the Canadian PR right now, and we were all set to move to Canada. But then I think the Reform and Integrity Act of 22 happened, and later that year I got to know about it. So yeah, after that I knew that EB5 was a legitimate option because I'd known about this for the longest time, but I think I always thought wrongly for some reason. I thought it was always a scam, so I never really looked into it. And I was told that there's already a backlog before the Reform and Integrity, the RIA Act, the RIA actually came into place. But then because of that law change or the new process that gave a lot of investors like myself an opportunity to invest and actually get on the route for a green card and hopefully eventual citizenship of the US.
Got it. Okay, so once you had kind of become familiar with the new rules of EB5 and decided it was something worthwhile to pursue, talk to us a little bit about your experience, selecting an EB5 immigration attorney to help you through the process. How many attorneys did you talk to? What were the things you were really focused on when kind of picking the person that would help you?
So I think it took me about 1.5 months to decide the attorney. I was actually initially, I think maybe I don't, sorry, wait, let me remember. It's been a while now, but I don't think I ever just Googled EB5 attorneys or anything like that. I started speaking with different regional centers, and they were the ones who would point me in the direction of EB5 attorneys, and I would speak with them. And I spoke with, I want to say, about 6 to 8 attorneys. And I almost signed up with a couple of them in the sense that I was okay signing up because they were all big firms and they were just partners at big firms. Definitely extremely difficult to get a hold of. And then I got introduced to Anahita. And Anahita, I mean, I think the first meeting, within the first 30 or 40 minutes, I was pretty convinced that I wanted to go ahead with Anahita as my immigration attorney, because sometimes it's almost like a long-term relationship you're looking at when it comes to EB5, because there are multiple stages. You have to file your I-526, your 485, at least in our case, we filed it concurrently. Then you have your I-829s, or even after that, maybe helping you file your N-400 for citizenship. So I knew that this was like the long-term relationship that me and my wife were looking at. Uh, but like I said, with Anahita, I spoke for an hour. Within the first meeting, I was convinced. It was, I mean, to be very honest, it was too good to be true. For me, I thought that there was some, I thought that there was some catch to it, because everything cannot be so simple like the way she laid it out. And part of my funds were from India, and the other half was coming from my parents in sorry, I, I, I probably misspoke. Half of my funds were from here in the U.S., and the other half was a gift from my parents who were in India. And the same evening, the first time I spoke with Anantha, the same evening I was able to set up a call with her with my parents, because they also wanted to talk to her, and she made it so simple for them in terms of what exactly is needed, what are the forms that will be required. The first meeting, she basically just gave us exactly the plan that we wanted to know, and there was no way she could have done like any homework. I think it was just sheer experience which she had working with multiple investors, uh, that she knew exactly the documents that were needed, and she was naming tax documentation which even I hadn't heard of from India. Uh, but those were extremely easy to gather. And yeah, I think she filed the I-526 petition for us, and she did the whole documentation. And yeah, I'm glad that it all worked out, and we were able to get the approval. And sorry, but just to add, the source of funds were never even questioned. After they were filed, so that was like a straight approval, pretty much.
Got it. Okay. And I think maybe tell us a little bit about just what that source of funds process looked like how many hours, nights, weekends, like how stressful was it? How long did it take? All of that.
So thankfully, I think I've heard from people that it's a really long drawn process. And to be honest, I think it depends on the kind of source you're talking about. Our source was pretty straightforward and clean. So I think end to end, just collecting all the documentation and everything probably took us about 2 weeks. And like I said, Anahita made it really simple for us. She basically just knew everything at the back of her hand, what exactly was needed. Another thing is that with Anahita, she was extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, there was, to access her was really easy. It's not that she was available on WhatsApp, so that made it extremely simple for us. It's not with the other attorneys. I had the experience that I would mail them and keep waiting for a reply, and it would just like the mode of communication was extremely difficult. But with Nayata, that ease of communication was there. So just because of that, like at times she has messaged me at 1 a.m. at night. She's from, I think she lives in Seattle, Washington on the West Coast. So let's say it's 1 a.m. my time and 11 p.m. her time. She has texted me at that time asking me for documentation, and if I was up, I would just send those to her at that time. And I have no idea when she sleeps, because at times she's messaged me at 11 p.m. her time, and if I wake up in the morning and I think about something, and if I have to text her, she'll respond at 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. So I'm not really sure when she sleeps, but that I think with Anahita, it became extremely easy to just yeah, get the whole thing sorted in probably 2 weeks. At that time also, she was able to, I told her that I wanted to file at a specific time, and we tried keeping a lot of it ready, but she was just, like I said, she was on the ball, and she was able to help and guide us through the process in 2 weeks.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So before we move on to the project side and
Yeah.
discuss, picking a project, just high level,
Yeah.
for someone new picking an immigration attorney, what are the 2 or 3 things that you think are just absolutely critical, to selecting an attorney who's going to be with you for the whole process?
So I think you have to be, definitely, the first thing is level of comfort. And I know I said that I made up my mind in the first hour of within the first 30-40 minutes of meeting Anahita, but that was because I had gone through several attorneys. I had conducted basically the introductory meetings with them. It's all about how you follow up. Like with a couple of attorneys, I did the introductory meeting, and they basically, you have to understand, they're trying to reel the client in, so they'll be at their absolute best. But after that, if I would reach out to them and ask them a simple question, and this was before I signed the agreement with them, they would just not answer any question and say, "Oh, first you sign and then we'll answer." Now that was a huge red flag for me, because I didn't know if they knew it or they were not revealing it, because it was just simple pieces of information. I wasn't like getting into the nitty gritties of the legalities of anything. I was just asking some simple basic questions which would help me. But they would always say, like, we first signed the agreement, only after that we would give you the answer or respond to your queries. With Anahita, that was never the case. Surprisingly, I think I started talking to Anahita a month before we actually ended up filing, and within the first 2 weeks, I was just having conversations with her. There was no guarantee that I would sign up with her, or there was no guarantee that I would even go ahead with the EB5 project, or even end up investing my money. But she was always there to help. So yeah, it was. I think that is definitely one of the few things that you have to look out for. The communication which is there. The second is how the ease of communication, and one of the most important things is that you have to be sure that your attorney understands your source of funds. Anahita being from India, it was a huge advantage for us. But even if you're from a different country, make sure that the attorney you go with is well versed with the laws and the taxes and other documentations which pertain to that your country of origin specifically.
Got it. Okay, that's super, super helpful.
Sure.
All right, so let's switch gears and talk a little bit about projects. So I know you did a lot of research on different projects, different regional centers. So kind of walk us through what your thought process was in terms of just how did you approach picking a regional center, picking a project, and what were some of the most important things that you were really looking for?
So again, I obviously came into this as an absolute amateur in the world of EB5. So it took me some time. It was almost like a second job for almost a month and a half, trying to understand what the industry is about, trying to even like gather and understand basic knowledge like capital stack, what are the basic different kind of investments, the equity, the preferred equity investment or loan investment, how things work, can there be guarantees or not, what kind of guarantees are okay. So it took me some time to understand that. And then I was talking to, I think I spoke to pretty much all the top regional centers that are out there. And I think EB5AN was pretty much the last one I spoke with, because even before I spoke with you, Sam, or I spoke with Mike, it was I saw the Twin Lakes project, just like a high level understanding of the project. I mean, high level presentation of the project, whatever was available on the website. And because of all the other projects that I looked at, I honestly thought this is too good to be true. There has to be some or the other catch. I'm not sure what it was, but I wasn't sure. And I had almost like really, I had gone ahead with a couple of other projects as well because those looked good as well, but none of them were rural. And rural has its own advantages, especially considering the fact like the country of birth, which I have, which was India, because uh, Indians and I think Chinese nationals are really, really susceptible to get into the backlog as really fast. So I wanted to avoid that and wanted to get into the rural category because there was more. I think there was 20% set aside amongst all the visas. So I think to answer your question, um, I sort of decided to work with EB5AN. My experience was great because you guys were always really responsive. You were really knowledgeable about the product that you guys had, which was Twin Lakes at that time, and and a couple of other projects. And you guys had pretty much all the answers that I was looking for. I remember sending you a list of questions, and I wanted those questions answered in writing. And Mike was kind enough to do that. You guys were available pretty much all the time. Whenever I had questions, I had like timely responses. And then if I wanted to verify something extra, you guys always went above and beyond in providing me with those documentations. Like, for example, I think I was looking at some documentation with regards to the developer culture and some financial approvals and stuff, and you were like you were pretty diligent about providing that as well. So those were the things. So in terms of client service, in terms of client servicing, you guys were pretty much like one of the best that I came across. And to add to that, the project which you guys had, Twin Lakes, was well pretty much unbelievable. So that was one of the main things when it came to selecting the regional center for me.
Got it. And I guess separate from the project, just kind of from the regional center perspective, like what were some of the things that really made EB5AN a little bit different from some of the other regional centers in terms of how how the interaction was and information, and what was your kind of impression on that side before you even got into the project details, let's say.
Sure. So one of the things was that the other regional centers that I was working with, they a they had, I mean, that could be because they had been in the game for such a long time, uh, but they had some bad projects in the sense that projects that had failed in terms of even creating the jobs or in terms of returning the money. EB5AN did not have any of those, so that was a huge green flag. The developer you guys were working with was had a really good reputation. So that was another thing which was working for you guys. Like I said, client servicing was top notch. And apart from that, the other regional centers I've worked with, they unfortunately it was almost like I had to read between the lines about what they were saying. I did not get the actual picture of what the situation was. It was almost like the projects that they had at that time were just basically bad projects, which did not get enough bank loan, maybe, and that's why they were looking at EB5 investors. So the health of the project was not great, and I had to dig that up and find out on my own. And the regional center was not there to help me find that. And unless I wouldn't say that they were lying to me, but it was almost like they were not telling me the information on their own. I sort of had to ask them the right questions because I'm pretty sure they cannot really lie to their clients. So they would not tell me willingly. They would not give me the cons of the project unless I specifically asked them. So that was one of the things which definitely worked for in your favor because you guys are pretty transparent from the word go. If something was done, something was done. If it was not, you would just be pretty upfront and vocal about it. That no, this is not done. You'd basically call a spade, and that really impressed me, and that is what made me decide to go with EB5AN.
Got it. Got it. And I know during that, speaking of just client service and kind of, transparency and questions, I know that was kind of right around that point when Signature Bank, was having problems. So yeah, just tell us about kind of about what that was like, and just once you had decided to make the investment, you wired the funds, and then, as part of that, kind of what's happened since then. File went in, and then, over the last 15 months, what was that like?
Got it. So, well, to start with, I transferred the funds in February and actually filed the form I-526 in March. So I did that, and I was pretty relaxed about the fact that everything is great. Now I just have to sit back and relax. And I think about a week or less than a week, somewhere around that time, right after that, I started hearing the news about Silicon Valley Bank. And I mean, I sort of loosely knew what was going on, but I wasn't really paying much attention to it because it didn't really concern me. And suddenly, somewhere, I probably saw like a Reddit post or maybe like a post on Twitter/X that that Signature Bank was in trouble. And at that time, the Signature Bank was the bank where I had transferred my funds, $800,000. So it was being kept in an escrow account at Signature Bank. And I distinctly remember it was a Thursday night when I don't remember the date, but it was a Thursday night when I realized that Signature Bank, I mean, it was just online. The forums were just going crazy with the fact that Signature Bank, there was something going wrong over there. And I think with a lot of cryptocurrency and stuff. Gosh, it's been such a long time. At that time, I probably understood a lot more of what was going on. But now, when I look back, there was something to do with cryptocurrency, and because of which the bank was sort of was on the verge of bankruptcy, and people were going in and taking their funds out, and their stocks were tanking. So Thursday night, I heard that Signature Bank might be the next in line after Silicon Valley Bank. Friday morning, everything tanked. Like the bank stock went down. I have some insane amount, I think 70-80% or something like that. And I think that and it was a Friday evening, so Saturday, Sunday were just the weekend. There was no action whatsoever. And I remember I started reaching out to Anahita, and I started reaching out to you and Mike frantically, wondering what was happening with regards to the escrow account. Because if the bank is basically, I mean, if the bank is going down, all the funds are going down with it, because everyone's just basically, I think it was called a bank run, if I'm not wrong. So there was a bank run, everyone wanted to cash out, the bank did not have enough cash, so they had to shut down the bank. Now, according to the law, I think FDIC only insures about $250,000 of your funds. So I was pretty nervous that whole weekend about what was going to happen with my funds. So I think it was Sunday evening where finally I think the government came up with the fact that some other bank is going to take over Signature Bank, and the funds will be secure. And after that, I think you guys got into action, and I was in touch with you guys the whole week. And I think I really, really, I was panicking, and rightly so. And I think I was hounding you guys as well. But what you guys did was you had all the paperwork and documentation prepared. And I think by Monday afternoon, the money was transferred out from the escrow account and had been transferred over to the bank accounts of Coulter. So that was what happened during those 4 days. Made me lose a lot of my hair, quite literally, those 4 days. But yeah, I think after that it was really straightforward. It was just about it was like a waiting game. I did touch base with Anayata a couple of times every now and then, just with regards to how, like, if she's heard anything, if any movement is happening. But apart from that, not much. Especially from you guys, the good thing was that with regards to the project, I would keep getting quarterly reports, or you would keep actually messaging me on WhatsApp, you and Mike, basically with all the information with regards to the home sales. I would get like a monthly email blast from you guys saying these many homes were sold, or these many homes were closed, or here so and so X number of homes were delivered, these many number of houses left out of 1,300. So it was a lot of that. And I think in December, I received received an update that your I-956 was approved. I'm not sure if it's 956F but I don't know, it's something to do with 956. So that was approved. So that basically meant that the project has been approved by USCIS. So that was great news. And I've been hearing, like, at least through different Telegram or WhatsApp groups, I knew that there were some other projects where 956 the project was approved, and within a couple of months, investors started to get approved. So I was pretty hopeful that if December of 23, the project got approved, and after that, it was just a matter of months that the 526E would be approved. But lo and behold, in January, we actually ended up getting a request for initial evidence. I had never heard that before, but it was, I think they treated as request for evidence or whatever, and it was just the most basic request for evidence ever. They actually, I think there was some bizarre column bizarre question which was not marked as no. I think something which said that are you planning on getting involved in like drug trafficking or something like that, something ridiculous. And you could not really check no because there was an error in the PDF documentation which USCIS would provide. The moment you would click no, it would just disappear. So that was the question, and I think they needed some 956 approval documentation or something, which I just didn't understand, because the reason why they were looking at my source of funds was because the project was approved. So why do you need the receipt notice, or my bad, sorry, why do you need the approval notice of the project? It's definitely there in your system. But anyway, so that happened in January, and I was nice enough to basically respond to it within the hour. I was able to upload the documents within an hour online, and we were convinced that it's as good as gone, but like as good as done, because I've had RFEs with other visas in the past, and it has just taken me maybe a couple of weeks tops to for the application to get approved. But that was January 23rd of 2024 where I got the RFE, and after that, it was just no movement, like nothing. It was just complete silence from USCIS, and there were other investors who were getting approved, like either straight approvals or I'm not sure like what exactly was the process which USCIS had. So I had no idea, were they looking at my source of funds? Were they concerned about something else? And I kept wondering that if they have any question, just ask me. I mean, everything was legal, so I could just answer pretty much any question that they had to throw at me. But there was just complete silence. And then after that, on I think April 29th, I received an update from USCIS where they said that we are actively reviewing your case. Again, I'm not really sure what that meant, because I genuinely thought that they were reviewing my case all along. And then I started also hearing that they started issuing similar RFEs to a lot of other clients, just similar RFEs. So it was, I'm not sure if they were delaying the process or if it was just like a automated thing which happened at USCIS. Not really sure. It was like I say, it was within a lot of paperwork. I think somewhere it just got lost, probably my application, and there was just nothing, no response. I would follow up with USCIS. I would give their customer care call once every couple of weeks, but I would just get like absolutely. They would say that they're reviewing my case and they would give me different timestamps, but that and so date some officer reviewed your file and so date some other officer reviewed your file. So I'm just wondering what they. I mean, I was getting a little nervous about the fact what exactly are they reviewing. I mean, if like I said, if they had to ask me any more questions, just go ahead, just ask, but just at least put an end to this madness. But then Nahita was obviously because she had an experience with other clients as well who were going through this and who were just not getting the approval. So what she did was she actually reached out to me and she got me introduced to Matt Galati, another attorney who I think works within the EB5 industry. And she said that he is going to file a writ of mandamus against USCIS. And the writ of mandamus actually is basically a lawsuit which you can file and just basically asking the government to do their job. That is what the writ is about. So I think it was, if I'm not wrong, there were 10 other people, 10 other EB5 investors who were just waiting for their who were actually waiting for their approval notices, or basically not approval, their files to get adjudicated. So, like I said, Anayata was nice enough to put me in touch with Matt Galati. I got in touch with him. It took me about a week to. I think we started the process at the end of May, and June 7th was when he actually filed the writ of mandamus. So we got an email. All the clients got an email that the writ of mandamus had been filed. June 11th, I saw online through this website called Pace and Monitor that the electronic summons were issued to USCIS, and June 21st of this year, basically like just about last week, and just on Friday, I get the notification that the case has been approved. So it was, yeah, like I said, that was a huge relief because that at least put an end to the just basically the waiting period.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So kind of fast forward to 2 days ago, you got your 5-60 approved. Now how does that feel, and what is the next year or two look like? What's your now that this is kind of in hand, what's your kind of 5-year plan?
Oh, so well, since I think I forgot to mention that after filing the I-526E application in March, I got my EAD and advanced parole within 60 days. So that was extremely lucky because I thought that people had to wait a few months, but within almost like approximately or even less than 60 days, both of us got our EAD and advanced parole. So that way, and using that, we were actually able to travel back to India for the first time after 5 years. And the return back was, well, as smooth as possible, because usually like with H-1B visas, at times things can get a little messy in the sense that they might take you for more questioning or something like that. But this time it was just extremely easy. We landed in Chicago. We showed our combo cards to the border security officer. They just took us back. I think they have to take you if you are carrying an advanced parole date, they have to take you to the back room for like a couple of minutes, and there was no waiting. So it was actually just a couple of minutes. They had to just stamp something on our passports, and they gave it to us, and there it was. So it was absolutely easy traveling on that. I would recommend one thing though for everyone who's seeing this, that if you have the advanced parole, that's not considered a valid form of U.S. visa, especially in European countries. So if you're flying from India into the US and you have an advanced parole documentation, you will be allowed inside the US. But if to board a connecting flight to Europe and from Europe to the US, you might have an issue. So definitely look into transit visas. It's definitely advisable because they don't recognize the advanced parole document for some strange reason. with the transit visa, you're absolutely fine. Like I said, it's really easy to enter into the US because it's almost like a mini green card, but traveling for some reason is an issue. But yeah, so since, like I mentioned, since we have our EAD and AP, that gives us pretty much the freedom to do anything that we want. It gives us huge it gives us like a sense of relief, a sense of permanency, that you belong in this country because we've been here for about 8 years, and you just don't know. Like, you might have to just pack up your bags. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding your life. You cannot buy a house. You cannot make investments, meaningful investments. You cannot switch jobs easily. You cannot travel. So all those headaches pretty much go away. And now the good thing is that since the our priority date is March of 23, that gives us, I mean, the chances of us getting backlogged are next to nil. So we're really, I mean, right now I think it's just a waiting game of when the green card application gets approved. I'm hoping in the next few months, and getting our green card. And after getting the green card, that'll be a conditional one for 2 years. And after 2 years, I think 90 days before the conditional green card gets expired, you file Form I-829 to remove the conditions. And at that stage, USCIS usually looks at the fact if your money was in fact at risk for 2 years and if the jobs were created. Now, obviously, the one of the biggest advantages of the Twin Lakes project was that the jobs were already created. All the jobs were there. It was a living project which we were able to visit in person, and we were able to see that half of the project was already built. So that way, it gives us a huge sense of relief that you don't have any question marks over the fact that your I-829 will get approved or not, because, like I said, all that is done. So it's just about filing a form and paying the high fees for USCIS and just waiting for the approval. But yeah, like I said, it's a huge, huge sense of relief.
Awesome. Well, obviously, we're very happy for you, and yeah, it's great that everything has gone smoothly and got the advanced parole EAD in less than 2 months and green card approved. Essentially without any real comments and all jobs created. So yeah, it's definitely smooth sailing ahead. I guess just to kind of wrap up, just having gone through the process now, gotten the work and travel permit, gotten approval, what would some general advice that you'd have for other investors, who are investing, now or at some point in the future? What are some of those kind of major takeaways that you'd want to share with someone, considering doing EB-5?
Well, for starters, I would always recommend my experience to anyone because it's been, knock on wood, a successful story. So I would definitely go with a project with EB5AN and choosing Nahita as a lawyer, because I don't think, I mean, I went with it because I thought I was going with the best in the business. So that is definitely one of the recommendations which I would make. And but apart from that, I think for a lot of people, the amount of 800,000 is a huge amount, and they start thinking, deep diving, and start thinking a lot about the money, and they start looking at the fact that they have to gain some interest on that amount of money. But I'll be pretty honest, if it's a really good project, they're not going to give you any, you're not going to get any interest because the green card is the interest part of it. If you're getting any high interest from EB5 projects, there's something wrong. I would suggest definitely dig deeper in those projects. If you're getting a higher interest, there has to be some catch. Maybe not. I might be wrong here. I'm not an expert, but usually, if it's a really high interest rate that you're getting, unless it's like a really 2 or 3 year investment or something like that. If it's a long-term investment and they're promising you some interest, you might it's a factor which might worry you. If, let's say, if you're stuck in a backlog, green card backlog like we were, if you come from a country like India or maybe even China, which is backlogged in other employment categories, or if you're just in India or any other country and you want to come to the US to basically, which promises you, the country promises you a better life, a better quality of living, and everything. If you want to move here, definitely, I think EB5 would be a really, really safe opportunity. I also know a lot of parents who are sending their kids from India, who are sending their kids to the US for higher education. And they're worried about the fact because they're worried about the fact that they might not be able to, they might go to the US, but they might not be able to settle there just because of all the uncertainty that surrounds given the H-1B visas. First, the lottery, because that is extremely difficult to get now because the odds are really bad, really poor. So there's no permanency, or there's absolutely uh, no guarantees over here. So I think going the EB5 route and getting just basically securing your kid's future who's coming here for higher education, or for your family if the whole family wants to move to the US, I think this is going forward. This is one of the best options I would recommend.
Got it. Well, thank you, Sid, again, for taking time to join us and share your experience and what the process was like firsthand. Really,
Sure.
really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, Sam.